consider this carefully. Why is it that the most profound thinkers throughout history rarely describe themselves as happy? Why do those who see furthest into the nature of existence often seem to carry a weight the rest of the world cannot see? Could it be that happiness itself is an illusion that only the unaware can maintain? What if the pursuit of joy is not enlightenment, but avoidance? In today's video, we're going to explore one of the most unsettling truths ever articulated about human consciousness. A truth revealed by Friedrich Nietzsche, a philosopher who didn't offer comfort, but rather pulled back the curtain on the machinery of human delusion. This video is not for the faint of heart. It's for those who have tasted success yet felt empty, who have achieved their goals yet question their meaning, who suspect that something profound is being traded away in the name of contentment. We're diving deep into why truly intelligent people often fear happiness, not because they're depressed, but because they understand what happiness costs. And stay with me until the end, because the final revelation we'll uncover may completely transform how you understand your own discontent. It's the most crucial insight, and I promise it's worth the wait. Before we begin, take a moment to support this channel. If you're someone who values difficult truths over comfortable lies, growth over stagnation, and self-awareness over blissful ignorance, hit that like button, subscribe, and leave a comment telling us, have you ever achieved something you wanted only to feel strangely hollow afterward? Your experiences might illuminate the path for others. Let's create a community for those unafraid to question everything. Now let's begin with Nietzsche's first devastating observation. Friedrich Nietzsche believed that what most people call happiness is actually a form of anesthesia. According to him, the average person seeks comfort, safety, predictability. They want to eliminate struggle, to smooth out life's rough edges, to create a bubble of pleasant sensations and familiar routines. But the thinker, the person who actually examines existence rather than merely experiencing it, that person quickly realizes that this so-called happiness is purchased at a terrible price, the price of becoming less. Imagine for a moment you're a sculptor working with marble. To create something beautiful, you must strike, chisel, break away pieces. The process is violent, uncomfortable, destructive. But without it, the marble remains formless. Now imagine someone offers you a pill that makes you perfectly content with the unsculpted block. You would never create the masterpiece. You would simply feel good about the raw stone. Nietzsche wasn't just guessing. He was observing a pattern throughout history. The most transformative figures, the artists who revolutionized their fields, the scientists who shattered paradigms, the philosophers who reconstructed thought itself, these people were rarely happy in the conventional sense. From Van Gogh's tortured genius to Beethoven's defiant suffering, from Dostoevsky's existential anguish to Marie Curie's relentless sacrifice, greatness has always grown in soil too harsh for happiness to take root. Why is that? Because happiness, as commonly understood, requires stability. It requires not questioning too deeply, not wanting too intensely, not seeing too clearly. But the intelligent mind cannot stop questioning, cannot stop wanting transformation, cannot unsee what it has witnessed. Nietzsche famously declared, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." But he also understood the inverse. Those who have no deep why often pursue happiness as a substitute. And that pursuit becomes an endless treadmill. Pleasure today requires more stimulation tomorrow. Comfort today breeds anxiety about losing it tomorrow. Happiness built on ignorance crumbles the moment awareness breaks through. You might ask, but isn't the goal of life to be happy? The answer is, only if you're willing to remain asleep. Nietzsche argued that most people are not seeking truth, or growth, or meaning. They're seeking relief from the burden of consciousness. They want to forget that life is temporary, that suffering is inevitable, that death awaits. Happiness in this sense is a drug, and like any drug, it works best on those who don't examine it too closely. Perhaps you felt it too. That moment when you finally achieved something you worked toward, graduated, got promoted, found a relationship, and instead of the lasting joy you expected, you felt a strange emptiness. Not because the achievement wasn't real, but because you realized the destination wasn't the point. The struggle was, the growth was, and now, standing at the summit, you see only more peaks ahead, or worse, the flatness of having nowhere left to climb. Here lies the paradox. Those who think deeply often find that happiness is incompatible with awareness. The more you understand about human nature, about society's illusions, about existence itself, the harder it becomes to simply relax into contentment. Not because you want to suffer, but because you cannot unknow what you know. This doesn't mean joy is impossible, but for the truly intelligent individual, joy must come from a different source. Not from comfort or distraction, but from creation, from overcoming, from becoming. That kind of fulfillment is rare, and until it's found, conventional happiness feels like settling. Let me ask you, when was the last time you felt genuinely alive? Not comfortable, not entertained, but truly alive. When was the last time you felt you were growing rather than merely maintaining? Nietzsche's insight stings because it reveals something we sense but rarely admit. That much of what we call happiness is actually stagnation disguised as peace. And that's why brilliant minds often fear it. Not because they're miserable, but because they understand what must be sacrificed to attain it. They are not rejecting joy, they are refusing to trade their potential for pleasure. And that refusal is costly. It means choosing the difficult path, the uncertain path, the path that offers no guarantee of contentment, but promises something perhaps more valuable, the chance to become who you truly are. If you've ever felt guilty for not being satisfied with a good life, for wanting more despite having enough, for feeling restless when you should feel grateful, this is your permission to stop apologizing. It may just mean that your soul values transformation over tranquility. As Nietzsche saw it, happiness is not the goal of existence. It is the consolation prize for those who never discovered what they were capable of becoming. And we're just getting started. So if happiness is the refuge of the unconscious, what then is the alternative? To understand this, we must look at how Nietzsche perceived human potential at its core. He believed that at the root of all vital human activity lies what he called the will to power. Not power over others, but power over oneself. The drive to grow, to overcome, to transform, to create. According to him, this fundamental force shapes not only our ambitions, but our entire relationship with existence. Life, then, is not a journey toward comfort and ease, but a constant struggle to transcend limitations. For the average person, this struggle is unconscious. They pursue goals without understanding why, climb ladders without questioning their direction, achieve milestones that society has predetermined. For Nietzsche, this mechanical existence, though common, was a betrayal of human potential. He believed that those who rise above programmed behavior, who question the meaning they've been handed, who dare to create their own values rather than inherit them, would inevitably find themselves at odds with the happiness-seeking masses. It's not that they see themselves as superior, but as fundamentally different, driven by questions rather than answers, by becoming rather than being. Imagine standing in a society where everyone has agreed that success means a certain income, a certain lifestyle, a certain set of achievements. The measures are clear, the path is defined, and most people walk it gratefully, believing that reaching these markers will bring satisfaction. But then there's you, the one who reached those markers and felt nothing, the one who realized the game was arbitrary, the one who started asking, what if I want something that doesn't exist yet? That's how the intelligent individual often feels in a happiness-obsessed culture. Not rebellious by nature, but incompatible with prescribed fulfillment. This discomfort intensifies with awareness. As one's understanding deepens, the tolerance for shallow goals evaporates. The clever learn how to appear satisfied, but the truly wise often refuse to pretend. They disengage from the happiness race not as an act of bitterness, but as an act of integrity. Nietzsche even went so far as to say, the individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. When your internal compass points toward growth, toward truth, toward self-overcoming, then the cultural obsession with happiness becomes unbearable. You no longer seek contentment to fill a void. You seek challenge to forge yourself. This is why so many intelligent individuals are drawn to difficult pursuits: philosophy, art, science, entrepreneurship, not as hobbies, but as laboratories for transformation. These pursuits allow the soul to test itself without the safety net of guaranteed happiness. They offer meaning instead of pleasure. And for the thinking mind, meaning is the only thing worth pursuing. But make no mistake, this path is brutal. The pursuit of self-overcoming is nourishment for those built for it. But for the world around them, it often looks like self-sabotage, restlessness, or inability to be satisfied. Friends may ask, why can't you just be happy with what you have? Family may worry, why do you always need more? Society may label it as ambition or fear of stillness. But the truth is, the intelligent person may be healthier, more authentic, more fully human in their striving than most are in their settling. Let's not forget Nietzsche himself lived a life of intense suffering, chronic illness, social isolation, misunderstanding. Yet he wrote some of the most life-affirming philosophy in history. His embrace of difficulty wasn't masochism, it was recognition. He understood that to grow is to suffer, and to suffer consciously is to become strong. Because once you see through the illusion that happiness is the goal, once you realize that comfort leads to decay, that safety leads to weakness, that contentment leads to stagnation, it's impossible to go back. You begin to crave challenge, difficulty, transformation, not because you're broken, but because you're awakening to your potential. Let's pause here and reflect. How much of your life is spent pursuing what you think should make you happy versus pursuing what makes you feel alive? How often do you choose the safe path when you know the difficult one would forge you into something greater? And if your answer is often, then perhaps your fear of happiness is not a pathology. It's an instinct protecting you from a lesser version of yourself. This is why Nietzsche believed that suffering is the domain of the exceptional. He didn't mean exceptional in terms of talent alone, but in terms of courage. Those who are willing to embrace discomfort, to choose growth over pleasure, to become rather than simply be, those people can endure and even welcome the struggle because they understand its purpose. They are not seeking escape, they are seeking elevation. But let's be clear, fearing happiness is not the same as seeking misery. Nietzsche was not advocating for needless suffering. He was calling for a conscious relationship with difficulty, one that sees challenge as the forge in which character is shaped. In his view, the only way to truly become yourself is to embrace the struggle rather than flee from it. And here lies the painful truth. The more aware you become, the less satisfied you'll be with simple pleasures. The more you grow, the fewer people will understand your choices. But at the same time, the more aligned you become with your deepest nature, the more free you are from the need for approval. It's a paradox. Less happiness, but more meaning. Fewer comforts, but deeper fulfillment. And in this paradox, Nietzsche found something resembling liberation. He did not see the fear of happiness as a curse, but as a sign that you are built for something greater than contentment. He saw the rejection of easy happiness not as tragedy, but as awakening toward a life of self-mastery and authentic power. Ask yourself, what have you created in your most challenging moments? Who have you become when comfort was stripped away? Would you trade that growth for easy contentment? Most people would, but maybe you wouldn't. And maybe that's why you're here. Because you're not looking for happiness. You're looking for significance. And Nietzsche, he would say that's exactly why you'll never be satisfied. And that's your greatest strength. Let's go even deeper. Friedrich Nietzsche's philosophy didn't merely describe why intelligent people fear happiness. He also revealed what they discover in that fear. Because according to him, discomfort is not a problem to be solved. It is a signal to be followed. It is through embracing difficulty that we access the only form of existence worth living. To Nietzsche, one of the greatest delusions of modern society is the belief that we should eliminate suffering, that progress means fewer obstacles, less pain, more convenience. He called this the domestication of humanity, and he argued that it leads most people into spiritual death, a life without edges, without challenge, without the resistance necessary for growth. The wise, in contrast, stop trying to eliminate difficulty. They learn to use it. He wrote, "What does not kill me makes me stronger." This is not merely a motivational slogan. It's a description of how consciousness evolves. Through struggle, through suffering consciously endured and transformed, we become more than we were. Let's consider how this unfolds. The young, intelligent person often starts believing in the happiness narrative. Work hard, achieve goals, find love, build security, and happiness will follow. They may have been high-achieving, driven, competitive. They throw themselves into pursuits believing that success equals fulfillment. But then something happens. They achieve the thing, the degree, the job, the relationship, the recognition. And instead of the promised satisfaction, they feel emptiness. Not depression exactly, but a sense that they've been chasing the wrong thing, that the finish line was arbitrary, that the game itself was designed by someone else. This realization is devastating, because it means everything they've been told about how to live well might be wrong. The pressure to stay on the prescribed path is enormous. But eventually some stop running, and that's when the transformation begins. They stop pursuing goals that look good on paper. They no longer optimize for external validation. They decline opportunities that would bring status but not growth. And instead, they turn inward. Not into despair, but into inquiry. What do I actually want? What am I capable of becoming? This turning point allows something rare, a confrontation with potential. In the space between who you are and who you could become, there's no comfort. There's only the terrifying freedom of possibility. And in that freedom we begin to see what we're actually made of, our capacity for creation, for endurance, for transformation. This process mirrors revolutionary figures. Take Steve Jobs, fired from his company, who later said it was the best thing that happened. It freed him to create without the burden of success. Take those who risk everything not for happiness, but for a vision that consumes them. But this path does more than reveal individual potential. It also reveals the emptiness of collective values. When you step back from pursuing happiness, you begin to observe rather than follow. You start seeing patterns, how society promises fulfillment through consumption, how it sells meaning through achievement. And the more you observe, the more you question. Why are we afraid of discomfort? Why do we medicate every unpleasant emotion? Why is busyness celebrated and stillness feared? These questions don't arise when you're chasing happiness. They arise when you stop running. This is what Nietzsche meant when he spoke of the death of God. When traditional sources of meaning collapse, we face a choice. We can either create our own meaning through struggle, or we can fill the void with distractions, with pleasure-seeking, with the illusion of happiness. Most choose the latter. But those who choose the former discover something extraordinary. Not happiness, but something deeper. A sense of alignment with their own nature. A feeling of moving toward who they actually are rather than who they've been told to be. And this realization brings both liberation and loneliness. Because once you've seen through the happiness myth, once you've understood that growth requires discomfort and meaning requires struggle, you can never unsee it. You start to see how people trade their potential for security. You notice how often achievement is just avoidance of deeper work. You see how many lives are built not on purpose, but on fear. And this realization is both sobering and empowering. You no longer chase what others chase. You no longer measure yourself by their metrics. You become sovereign over your own existence. And this, Nietzsche believed, is the true reward of embracing difficulty. Not happiness, but freedom. Not pleasure, but power. The power to become yourself. Ask yourself now, when do you feel most yourself? Is it when you're comfortable, or when you're stretched beyond what you thought possible? The truth is, some people are not built for happiness. They are built for transformation. They are not here to be satisfied. They are here to become. And the tragedy is that many never realize this. They spend years trying to fix their inability to be happy, thinking it's a defect. But what if it's not? What if it's a calling? What if your fear of happiness is your soul protecting you from a life too small for what you're capable of? Nietzsche believed that only through embracing difficulty can we become who we truly are. Everything else is compromise. You do not become exceptional by seeking comfort. You become exceptional by having the courage to risk everything for something calling you forward. And if you are on that path, understand this. You are not broken. You are becoming. And the final piece of this truth is still to come. So, here we are. We've seen why happiness is not the sanctuary it pretends to be. We've uncovered how intelligent individuals like Nietzsche often reject contentment in pursuit of something far more meaningful. But what then is the ultimate truth? What's the final insight that makes this entire difficult journey not only worthwhile, but necessary? It's this: the highest form of human existence is not found in achieving happiness, but in becoming who you were meant to become. Not through comfort, not through avoidance, but through the conscious transformation of suffering into strength, obstacles into opportunities, fear into fuel. In this process of becoming, there is no safety net, no guarantee of contentment, no promise of ease. There is only you, facing the raw potential of what you could create, what you could overcome, what you could become if you refuse to settle. And that is where transformation happens. This truth is uncomfortable. Most people will spend their entire lives running from it, because embracing it means accepting that you are responsible for creating your own meaning, that no one is coming to save you, that the life you want doesn't exist until you build it. But for those who are brave enough, and make no mistake, it is an act of courage. This realization becomes the source of ultimate freedom. Let's return to Nietzsche one final time. He believed that life was inherently challenging, that existence demanded struggle. But he also believed that through amor fati, the love of fate, through saying yes to life in all its difficulty, we could transcend mere survival and achieve something extraordinary. We could, if only for moments, become creators rather than creatures. And here's the final twist. For Nietzsche, fearing happiness was not a pathology, it was wisdom. To fear happiness is to recognize its cost, to understand that every moment spent in comfortable contentment is a moment not spent becoming, that every choice for ease is a choice against growth, that every surrender to satisfaction is a betrayal of potential. The intelligent person who embraces this fear is not avoiding life. They are engaging with it at the deepest level. They are choosing transformation over tranquility, meaning over pleasure, becoming over being. And once you make this choice, the world will try to pull you back in. It will tempt you with comfort. It will show you happy people and ask why you can't be like them. But you will know the difference, because you've tasted the fire of transformation. You've stood in the forge where character is shaped. You've understood that a life spent seeking happiness is a life spent running from who you could become. Now let's turn inward one final time. Ask yourself, what am I avoiding by seeking comfort? What am I capable of becoming if I embrace the difficulty I've been running from? What would I create if I stopped optimizing for happiness and started optimizing for growth? If the answer stirs something in you, even if it frightens you, then know this. You're walking the path that Nietzsche and countless other transformative minds walked before you. You're choosing to become rather than to simply be, and that is the most courageous choice a human can make. But here's what makes this path sacred. It's not about rejecting joy. It's about understanding that real fulfillment comes not from eliminating struggle, but from embracing it. Not from achieving permanent happiness, but from becoming someone capable of creating meaning in the face of difficulty. Not from escaping life's harshness, but from transforming it into something beautiful. You begin to understand that existence is not a problem to be solved, but a medium to be shaped. That you are not a finished product seeking maintenance, but raw material capable of endless transformation. You stop seeking from life and start creating with it. From your struggles, from your awareness, from your refusal to settle. And that is the final paradox. The more you embrace difficulty, the more alive you become. When you stop chasing happiness, you discover something far more valuable. Purpose. When you stop avoiding discomfort, you find your edge. You're no longer sleepwalking through an inherited script. You're authoring your own existence. This is the journey of the awakened mind. And yes, it is difficult. But it is the sacred difficulty of the artist, the creator, the revolutionary. It is the struggle of those who refuse to live a diminished life, of those who would rather face uncertainty than guarantee mediocrity. If you are one of them, if difficulty calls you more than comfort, then know this: you are not damaged. You are being forged. You are part of a lineage of creators, from Nietzsche to you. The path of transformation is steep, but it is the only path worth walking. Walk it without apology. And when the world asks, "Why aren't you happy?" answer with the quiet certainty of one who knows, because I am becoming something happiness could never create. If this video resonated with you, take a moment now, not for us, but for others who are walking this path, to leave a comment, share your story, let others know they are not defective, not ungrateful, not broken, but awakening. Like, subscribe, share it with someone you know is quietly carrying this truth within them. Together, we are creating a space where growth is valued over comfort, where becoming is celebrated over being, where transformation is recognized as the highest human calling. And remember, your fear of happiness is not your weakness, it is your wisdom. It is not your burden, it is your compass. And in that sacred discomfort, everything extraordinary begins. Thanks for watching.